What's up, War Rapport family? It is your boy C Dub. It is Wednesday, July 19th, and it's SEC Media Days in Nashville. That's where Mike and Ike are, giving you the best coverage, some of the best content that you can see out there, guys. But tonight, we still got a full house as we will be recapping the Media Days and giving some of our thoughts. We definitely want to hear from you as we talk about what has occurred so far in the latest edition of the Midweek Report. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy hump day. Welcome to the latest Midweek Report or latest edition of the Midweek Report, courtesy of auburnsports.com. Guys, best way you can support the War Report is by supporting our sponsors. So please be sure to head over to auburnsports.com as they have been covering media days as well. Some great write-ups and great content by those good folks. Shout out to them for supporting us. And we want to shout you guys out for supporting us and checking us out on this lovely Wednesday. Continue to support us by sharing this content. Please do that on social media. Smash the like button. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. And for those of you who just found our channel, please be sure to subscribe to that as well. There's no Ike, but we still want you to go get a green name. And you can do that for $5.99. Guys, Ike is dropping some dope content in the off season with some of the film reviews. They've been excellent as he's been previewing and looking at some of the newest talent on our roster, giving you an idea of some things you can expect, even looking at some offensive stuff, defensive stuff, giving us a preview of what to expect on the Plains. And you can catch that, guys, for $5.99 a month. Also, as we're coming up on the season, there's some other cool stuff that we're going to be dropping. So please be sure to get in where you fit in. It helps a lot. And if you want to give the gift of memberships of the War Rapport, there's a button for you can do that. And we appreciate you guys for doing that for us, helping us grow our community by gifting memberships. Please continue to do that, guys. It helps us out a ton. Definitely want to show love to Harmon Mechanical. Guys, it's July and it's hot. Okay, it's really hot. But you need Harmon Mechanical. B. Will can attest to them as he's been a patron of their services. B. Will is over there sitting in an air-conditioned, cooled house because of Harmon Mechanical, and you can do the same with them as well. They're there when you need air. Please be sure to hit them up. Shouts out to Harmon Mechanical. Definitely want to shout out and give attention to the fact that we have a whole podcast network. We're joined by Dustin and Dylan of our newest family members, the College Loop and the Uptempo podcast. Guys, you can check them out on our podcast network as well as content from the Auburn Express. We greatly appreciate you guys doing that. Check them out. And I know I'm kind of jumping around. You know we giving away something, guys, courtesy of GWT2. It is going to be, let me actually make sure I start this so we can start collecting this. War Eagle Oil. That is the giveaway. Hashtag get your weight up so you can enter to win. Get in where you fit in so you can win. I already see some entries already. Please be sure to do that. And we definitely will be dropping or giving this at the hour mark. Running this. Yeah, that's it. Guys, how are y'all doing? Dustin, how are you, sir?
What's up, guys? Good happy to be with y'all tonight. Dylan, I like that hat, buddy.
Thank you. Brand new.
Looking fresh, baby.
If you can't tell, I'm a big hat guy, so brand new hat.
Never would have picked that up. But that's a nice hat, though.
Like nice hat, though.
That's a very nice hat. B. Will, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, man. I'm up in this my bedroom work dungeon that's directly above my garage.
You're in a different space.
You haven't been in this space, but I've been up here. But the problem is, see, my garage gets hot, and this ain't got Harmony Mechanical. They do a great job because my house is cool, but where I'm at, I am not. I got a fan on in front of me. I can't keep this thing below 75 degrees in here once it gets over 92 degrees, which I know y'all might be saying that's not bad. You get a fan, you fine, right? I know, but I'm uppity, man. I got old, I got comfortable. I don't like to feel anything above 75 degrees inside the house. I'm a little disgruntled. I'm gonna try to be cool about it though. See, be cool. I'm already making jokes.
You're already rethinking that whole office idea, I see. So
nah, man, that was the best. It's the best thing to do. You know what happened? You get the kids need the rooms, man. You know how it goes. See,
yeah, absolutely, I do know how that goes. Listen, let's get into it. Enough about us with new offices and kids and all that good stuff. Let's talk about SEC Media Days. Yesterday was Auburn's day. Hugh Freeze was there along with Elijah McAllister, Luke Dill, and Cameron Stutz. And Hugh Freeze updated us on the last two signees of the 2023 recruiting class. That is Quintrell Jamison Davis, the number 51 JUCO defensive lineman recruit. He is feeling good about him that he'll be eligible to play or by the beginning of the season. He's not pretty confident about DeQuavius Sori, which many people have been not too confident about over the past several weeks. And is looking more and more like he is heading the JUCO route, which a little disappointing. I know Ike was pretty high on him. I think he was our biggest. I know JC Hart was a recruit who was an athlete who's getting a shot at wide receiver, but I know Ike was excited about him. So a little disappointing that he's going the JUCO route and won't be with the team this fall. But those are the updates on him. Any thoughts on this, guys, in terms of these guys? I'm not quite sure if we were expecting much contributions for them this year, but a little disappointing. I was curious to see what Sori was going to be able to do for us. Any thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen Sori play a couple of times. He's about an hour from me here in Pensacola over in Chipley. So I've seen him play. I went and saw him play twice last year. Playmaker, man, like when he gets the ball in his hands, he can take that thing to the house. I remember one, I believe it was like the first or second play of the first game I went and saw him play. Screen pass, 75 yards to the house, made 4 or 5 guys miss. Definitely a dynamic guy, but also kind of been hearing the stuff for a while that just wasn't going to be able to make it. So not really a big surprise. And with how Hugh Freeze recruits that wide receiver room, I don't think in the long run it's going to be a big issue. And when you get a guy like Caleb Burton that was a 5-star and has 4 years of eligibility, I think Hugh kind of knew this coming, right? You're basically picking up. I mean, he's got 4 years of eligibility. He's got plenty of time. So you're kind of making up for that in that spot, in my opinion. Agreed.
Any other thoughts, guys, on this?
Well, it helps that the wide receiver position is probably the most loaded it's been in a hot minute. So it's not a huge loss, but it does suck that you lose a guy who was a track star. I think he probably could jump the highest out of anybody in this wide receiver room, give or take height involved in that. Yeah.
For sure. And again, Hugh Freeze is still recruiting with this upcoming class. I mean, we got Bryce Kane on board who's would be playing a similar role. So to your point, Dustin, Hugh Freeze is still recruiting heavily at that position. So I think we'll be just fine there. Hated for the kid, though. I'm pretty sure he was looking forward to being an Auburn Tiger. And Hugh Freeze didn't shut the door on him. Of course, he's always looking guys at the JUCO level. If he shows and proves and there's a spot available, Hugh Freeze wants him. Still may be an opportunity, but we will definitely see for sure. He also gave us an update in terms of injury report. Just to go through the list of some of the injury or guys on the injury list. As you know, Brian Batty had toe surgery in the offseason. We actually got a chance to see him a little bit in spring and looked pretty impressive. Hugh Freeze actually talked about how impressed he was during spring, thinking he was more of a scat back type, mostly being used in special teams, maybe in around stuff. But he was impressed with how he was able to run between the tackles. And so this was one of the things that even I remember hearing Caddy talk about the fact that, hey, this kid can actually run between the tackles. Seeing him doing in spring was a little impressive. But he's actually saying he's going to suck it up and go per Freeze, which tells me still not quite 100%. And I'm curious as to how limited he'll be in fall camp. Hopefully he'll be 100% by the time the season starts, but it sounds like he will be limited in fall camp. Thoughts on this, guys?
I don't think it's I don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue. And I mean, as long as he can still run with one, I think he can still run with 9 toes, right? You don't need all 10 to run as fast.
If it's that big toe, no,
you can run. I don't know about
Hey.
you cutting or doing stuff like
gonna
that, but
kill
you can
you.
definitely run a little bit.
Well, he can still do kickoff returns and stuff. You don't
Yeah.
need to cut that much on those, but yeah, surely he'll be healthy because from what I've heard, he's a little bit stronger than his height and weight put on. He can make he'll run through some people. So hopefully, like you said, 100% by the time September 2nd comes around.
And the biggest thing for him is I want to see the competition between him and Damari Austin. So there's a selfish part of me that really wants him healthy so that we can kind of see how the competition stacks behind Jarquez. And depending on what happens with Jarquez, which we'll get to in a minute, that also makes that competition takes front and center, given his status of being up in limbo. B. Will, you got any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I kind of hate to hear that he said he's going to tough it out. Like, I want dudes to be healthy.
Yep.
I mean, you just got something fixed. Obviously, there was something wrong with it. I think we heard from Brian Batty's father closer to the spring, just after the spring, saying, yeah, he had this issue for a while. He was just trying to tough it out for the longest. And somebody finally told him, hey, man, you know you can get this fixed, right? So he's like, okay, well, I don't have to just fight through the pain anymore. I can get it fixed to be 100%. But I think the point is you're supposed to be getting the best version of him, the healthy, pain-free version, because that's when he's going to play his best. Now, I'm not worried about it because I think Damari Austin is an RB1 on anybody else's team. I think Jarquez is like a RB1 plus. So we got dudes. I'm not afraid of not having Brian Batty in the lineup, but I would hope that they just hold him until he's healthy. Like, that's what I want. I understand you might have to have him on kickoff because that really might have been maybe his biggest contribution to the team this year is him on kickoff. So I get why they might want him back for that. But man, I'm hoping, or I was hoping that they held him off until he was completely healthy. But maybe he's just gonna go. He had been playing with the pain up until this point. So between the coaches, and if he's okay with it, then hey, glad to have him on the field.
And I'd be curious to see too how Jeremiah Cobb looks as well. That'll also determine what the coaches do with him as well. So that, again, a lot to keep watch of and keep in mind as we get into fall camp. There's an embarrassment of riches at the running back position. So hopefully the coaches are able to manage these players, and hopefully we'll have a full deck by the time the season starts and everyone's healthy. So going down the list, this is a position group that I'm actually pleased to hear. I think this has been some good news. Jeremiah Wright, Cam Stutz, and Tate Johnson, reported by Hugh Freeze, are all set to go for fall camp. Guys, it looks like we're going to be in good shape, especially as it pertains to the interior offensive line. There's going to be some competition there. I know a lot of people kind of feel strongly about Jeremiah Wright being the starting left guard, but there's going to be some competition at the very least at right guard. You have a Stutz, Tate Johnson. I can't think of the other transfer that we had coming in who can also play tackle.
Muskrat.
Who's that? Muskrat. That's that. Muskrat. There's going to be a lot of competition for right guard. And so to see that all these guys who Hugh Freeze, I mean, Cam Stutz made it to SEC Media Days. So that tells you a lot about how Hugh Freeze thinks about him. He spoke very highly of Tate Johnson, who was battling injuries during the spring. So I'm curious to see how the competition goes there with the inside the interior of the offensive line. Guys, it looks like our offensive line is going to be in good shape. All things considered, they stay healthy to the start of the season. We know how this last season ended with our offensive line just dropping like flies and guys being rotated in and out everywhere across the offensive line, it seems. But it looks like we are in really good shape going into fall camp with the offensive line. And I, for one, feel good about that considering how many new faces we got up there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I like the depth. You feel so much better about depth than last year, right? If you have a guy like Muskrat on the bench, you have a guy that we so highly touted like Xavier Miller coming out of JUCO off the bench. And like you said, last year we just got decimated, and you saw it was this makeshift, just trying to throw it together. The coaching staff was makeshift, everything. You were just trying to throw everything together. So going into this year with what seems like a lot more continuity, a lot more depth, it's going to be about how those guys mesh, right? I think that Jeremiah Wright has one of those guard positions locked up. I just do. I know that he's been hurt but if he can stay healthy, then you have the question about can Tate Johnson stay healthy? That's going to be an interesting battle. Will be Tate and Cam Stutz. And if you listen, guys, everyone, and Cam Stutz said his name too. Everyone's super high on Connor Lew. And it's easy to kind of write off a freshman offensive line. But I watched LSU win the SEC West last year with a couple freshmen starting on the offensive line. We just spoke about the injuries that you're going to have. Connor Lew is going to have to start a game for us this year. I guarantee you. There's going to be injuries. He's going to have to step up. A guy like Muskrat, they're going to have to step up. I feel a lot more comfortable about those guys in the depth. And then also them being put in the right position. Because who was it last year where Jeremiah, for example, you get to the Ole Miss game and then you go, why hasn't he been starting all year?
Right.
I just don't think that's going to be a thing. I think that you're going to have the best guys out there. And then when they inevitably do get hurt, the floor is raised. I like the guys coming off the bench a lot better than the situations we've been in years prior.
Agreed. Dylan B. Will, what were your thoughts on the offensive line?
Well, I've gone to college loop a lot, and I've said this. This is going to be the best offensive line Auburn's seen since 2017. And I've even gone as far to mention that Gunnar Britton's going to be the best tackle we've seen since Greg Robinson. Just because of what Hugh Freeze has brought. Yep.
Wow.
He was a number 2 overall pick in the 2013
Oh,
draft.
I know who he is. I'm just saying. That's top praise. Just get right over Prince Tega. I don't want to mess up his last name.
Super Bowl.
Tega was good. It was the fact he was just an edge rusher, and I always make fun of the fact that one of the best tackles that Gus Malzahn was able to recruit was an edge rusher. He just shifted over. But now we have a coach who prioritizes getting those big body, those powerful pass blocking offensive linemen that Auburn has not had since, again, 2017. And that's the Braden Smith year. And this has just been nothing but positive things have been said about this offensive line. And the only position you really got to worry about is that right guard position because you don't know who's starting there yet. And, and you probably didn't even – Jeremiah Wright has the left guard position in the bag, I think. And then you can't if you have one guy who doesn't play up to the strength of the other 4, I think you're fine. I think Jeremiah Wright, Avery Jones, Gunnar Britton, and Dylan Wade are – that 4 alone would block better than last year's 5-man front. And that's probably the funniest thing because I think last show I said that Auburn had the 15th best offensive line in a 14-team league.
And again, I mean, it was makeshift. It was a makeshift line. I mean, there was an infirmary unit by that point, halfway through the season. So hopefully, it's not a mash unit this year. Hopefully, we can stay reasonably healthy. And with so many new faces on that line, you do need those guys time to gel. And I think injuries hurt that. And I think we need some positive luck on the offensive line this year. So hopefully that plays a big part. And I was impressed with what I saw on A-Day. I was impressed to see us actually moving the ball on the ground. And again, we started doing a good bit of that towards the end of last season as well. So I'm hoping that they pick up where they left off with last year. Malcolm Johnson Jr., who missed spring practice with a dislocated shoulder, is back. I'm curious to see how he factors into this wide receiver race. JD Rim is also back after suffering a lower leg injury during spring. And something that I thought was pretty interesting here was they mentioned that North Texas transfer Jair Shorter is still recovering from a foot injury from last year as well. So I'm curious to see, and Hugh Freeze talked about having to manage him a lot, but Jair Shorter is kind of a home run threat. I don't see him as one of those possession receiver type guys, but I'm curious what he means by managing him and how much of him he gets to see and how much he factors into this rotation for the wide receivers. B. Will, your thoughts on Jair Shorter? I know you've been pretty big on him.
Yeah, you look at his stats and what he did, what his role was in that offense. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a guy who is the deep ball guy. And if you have a true deep ball threat in your offense, he doesn't have to be the best wide receiver on the field. You can be singular in your role and your purpose and provide incredible value for the team and for the offense. So when he said manage him, I was like, whoa, what? Right. That's to take the top off dude. That's the dude that's going to make everything easier for everybody else. You talk about managing him, so he's not going to be ready to go. I keep thinking about that first month of the season, man. If you're telling me Brian Batty's beaten up or he's not going to be 100% at the start of the season, now Jair Shorter, might not be 100% start the season. Those are two key contributors, either on offense or special teams. When you're talking about Petit, that's field position and your ability to get the ball deep. Wait, what's going on, Hugh? I didn't know that. I knew Brian Petit had the toe thing, but I didn't know that Jair Shorter was nursing anything from last year. Maybe if I had done a little more reading, I would have found that out. I did not. I just knew that he was a deep ball dude, so I was happy to get him. But I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about that. Not that we don't have other guys who can and should be able to be on the field and contribute, but what he does and what Jair Shorter is best at, I don't know if anybody else on this roster is as good at that as Shorter is. So if you don't have that, or at least you don't have it in spades like Shorter was able to produce it, what happens between the start of the season when he gets back completely healthy? Who's going to be in that role? Is offense going to look different? Are you just going to have a different guy who maybe can't quite do it? Like, I don't know. What's any of this going to look like? You know what I mean? So I'm a little slightly concerned about that, but nothing too serious, because I actually do think, you know, one thing that's happened out of media days is Hugh Freeze talking about offense, the SEC network people talking about Hugh Freeze and talking about the other coaches' respect for Hugh Freeze and offense. It left me going, maybe we do have a dude who knows what he's doing with offense now, because we haven't for the last I don't know what went 2015 to now. I'll give Gus 2013 and 14. From 2015 to now, we haven't had somebody who I felt like you absolutely get it. No matter what game we're in, we got a shot with the offense. It has been a while since I felt like that, but I finally feel like that. So a little hesitation because we're going to be missing some key people, but also not just because it's Hugh Freeze, Phillip Montgomery too. Like, these are offensive minds, and I got confidence that they'll be able to put it together, at least hold it together long enough for the other guys to get back and then really make something happen.
Dustin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm concerned as far as the Shorter thing goes, just because I don't ever like hearing about a guy being hurt before the season. And I'll give you two examples just with Auburn. The kid that just transferred to basketball to Syracuse, Chance. Hear before the season that he's hurt, and then he never gets right.
Yeah.
And then Gonzo in baseball, you hear that he has shoulder soreness before the season, and then he pitches 50-something pitches for us week 1 versus Indiana. We don't see him again. I don't like hearing about guys coming into the season. You're already saying you have to manage him, and we haven't played it down in a physical sport. That's concerning to me, man. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. Dylan, you have any thoughts?
Well, I'm a little worried that he's just hurt. His nickname is Touchdown Machine, so you really don't want to miss on a wide receiver named Touchdown Machine. But I think with the players behind him, I think Auburn's offense won't struggle as much without him, because I think Shane Hooks is probably the biggest pickup in that wide receiver room, just because of what he can do. And I mean, he also could. That's another proof of Hugh Freeze recruiting, because he out recruited Lane Kiffin for Shane Hooks. But I mean, look behind who I presume that Jair is probably going to play the slot, and I think Coy Moore and Javarius Johnson can fill in that role fairly well in the absence of Jair. And Coy Moore has the opportunity to be probably better than what we can expect from Jair Shorter, strictly because we don't know what Coy Moore can do in a quality offense, unlike what he was in last year.
Yeah, and I think Auburn still has guys who can take the top off of a defense. I just think what was so unique about Shorter is that he can not only do that, but he also had the size to be able to go up and get those 50-50 balls as well. And so I think he presented a unique challenge to opposing team secondaries because of his size and his skill set. So I'm really hoping that he's able to get back on the roster and compete, because I actually do want to see what he does in comparison to some of the other receivers I see people mentioning in the chat, like from Camden Brown, Shane Hooks, all those other guys. He presents a unique matchup problem for opposing secondary. So I think this guy actually dealt with a lot of injuries too at his previous stop as well. So it makes me concerned when you consider his injury history already. So hoping that it's something that he can get past and can get on the field. And as we already mentioned, Jarquez Hunter, he was of course Hugh Freeze was being asked about that, and he gave a pretty statement that we can understand. He's not commenting on what's an investigation on the part of the university. So there is no update on that. And kind of curious when we'll get an update on that from the university. So, but like I said, we do have a stable of running backs, and so I am excited about that. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the statements that Hugh Freeze was asked in terms of play calling. I believe Mike G asked him about play calling, his relationship with Philip Montgomery, and he basically alluded to the fact that the biggest thing that, which I thought was pretty interesting, this being his first year of giving up play calling, since he was pretty much the signal caller or play caller throughout his career, he's kind of felt like he may not have been the best at play calling in the nation over the past few seasons, starting with Liberty, which I thought was a very interesting comment from him. And one of the things that he mentioned is that while he will have, the opportunity to step in and kind of make suggestions in key moments of the game, he really is entrusting Philip Montgomery not only with some of the terminology out there, but also with just the actual play calling, just a fresh set of eyes to call plays with, which I thought was refreshing to see a commitment to that. More on that later with other coaches who wasn't so committable. But want to get you guys' thoughts on just how someone who has cut his teeth on being a very respectable offensive mind, kind of having a sense of self-awareness to know that, hey, I may need some fresh ideas. I may need some guys who do things a little bit different. Offenses are similar, but actually kind of do things differently within a game. Talk about your thoughts about that. I'll start with you, Dylan, in terms of comments that Hugh Freeze had as it pertains to his offense.
Yeah, this was one of the cooler answers that I think he had, strictly because he talked about how they're the same offensive mind, but the terminology is different. And you kind of go into how you talk to different coaches about different strategies going into the seasons. And you're like, well, Hugh said that he's worked with a couple of guys who were coaching in like Alabama and Georgia and a few other colleges around here that Auburn really wants to beat. And they all pretty much know his offense. They know what he's going to call. They know the words, the lingo that he's going to use. But Phil Montgomery brings in another language on that offense. And you bring up, and I don't know how much of the Liberty was him not being a good play caller, or if it was just the fact that he played harder competition with less talent at a Liberty school than he would at Ole Miss. But I think that Phil Montgomery and Hugh Freeze is having the same mind in this offense. It works. They're going to bounce off each other very well. And this is what, with Phil Montgomery and just what he's done with quarterbacks and what Hugh Freeze has done with quarterbacks. And I don't know if we're going to go into what Hugh Freeze said, I think yesterday with Pete Thamel about running two quarterbacks, but I think those two, Hugh Freeze could call plays very well for Peyton Thorne. And I think Phil Montgomery could call plays very well for Robbie Ashford if it comes down to that.
We will.
I think it was, like you said, self-awareness. I have to know who I am. He wants to succeed here. And he knows that he needs to put together a competent offense because we've been hurting for that for 5 straight seasons. So he's like, who's as good as calling plays? You have to at least respect somebody. You're going to ask them to come call your plays if you're a play caller. If that's what you do, that's how you cut your teeth. You're not going to bring anybody in just because you don't need a yes man. All right. A yes man is not going to make you better. But somebody who's run their own show, been an OC, been a head coach, been a quarterback's coach, I think that was just a good pickup. But he knew that he needed, number one, help seeing things differently, like C said, but also the jig is up on me and what I call and how I call it and how I design it. We need somebody else. We need a coder. We need somebody else. I just got done watching the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime. All right.
Is that good?
They're not paying us. It's great. All right. Jim from The Office killed it as Jack Ryan. He's still Jim from The Office. All right. But he killed it. All right.
Okay.
The last season, they were passing messages on how to do these covert ops, and they had a code. They had a book. There's like a book that they picked, and this is how you decode the messages, right? So you got all this information that's going to be very common sense to anybody who intercepts it, but you need somebody to code it. So I know what you're talking about, but the other people don't. Philip Montgomery he's the code. He is the guy that's going to take this Hugh Freeze offense that he said it's going to be a passing offense. He's like, it's going to be principally what I've always done, but it can't sound the same. It can't come across as the same because other people will be able to pick up on it. So You have to have some self-awareness to be able to make that call. All right. So that's a good thing. He also said in his interview, I want to say it was right after when he was sitting down at the panel with the SEC Network guys, and also Derek Mason was at the table as well. And he said, when you have to spend so much time focused on culture and locker room and recruiting, I can't do as much as I want to do with the offense. So I have to have somebody who I actually trust to run the offense. His focus is on recruiting, building culture, and maintaining culture. There's only so much time in the day, man. There's only so much time in the day that you can spend doing anything. So you have to allocate your resources carefully, your personal resources. How much energy do you have? How much sleep you're going to get tonight? Because you got to sound real energetic when you get on the phone with this recruit tomorrow morning and tell him that you saw his game the night before and how good he looked and how there's a role for him in your offense. Yeah, but if you only slept 4 hours because you went to bed at freaking 3 because you were trying to design some plays instead of letting Philip Montgomery design some plays, well, you know what? You cut off your nose to spite your face. Give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody you trust, a respectable mind. And he seems to have understood, I can't do everything. This is how I delegate. I think that's hard for some people to do. I think we saw that Gus Malzahn could not do that. He could not let it go. When he let play calling go, it's because somebody made him. And then when he took it back a couple years later, he said, yeah, I never wanted to give it up. He was like, he said, oh, yeah, this is a good thing. Yeah, Rhett Lashlee can call the plays. This is exactly what I want. And then as soon as he's like, yeah, I'm calling plays. That's what I want to do. I lied before. You can't do it all and be the CEO that you have to be. Philip Montgomery is going to be the Robin to Hughes Batman. And I think it's a good thing that he recognizes that. Like from a emotional and mental intelligence standpoint, Hugh Freeze is making a good decision there. And I think we hope it's the best decision as far as we don't want them sniping at each other. And, you know, like Chip Lindsey was about to beat Gus Malzahn up apparently after the Clemson game in 2017.
I was about to beat Gus up after one of those games.
if you believe that story. But yeah, I want to see some cohesion. I want to see them work together. And I think they will. I think they will because there's mutual respect. And Hugh Freeze has already said that he understood why it needs to happen. So I think it'll work well.
Well, I think we're coming into the age of college football where offensive coordinators are getting more and more respect. And you see that the top level coaches that are winning championships and playing the college football playoff, they're not doing the play calling. They're passing off to their coordinators. There's a team in the SEC West that struggled last year because their head coach wouldn't give up play calling. And we'll probably talk about him in a little bit because he made a little bit of a uh-oh when he answered his question about play calling. But we're seeing, like, with TCU, you have Lincoln Riley's brother.
Sonny Dykes is over there.
Well, Sonny Dykes is the head coach.
Right.
It was Riley. It was
Riley was there last year, and he's now at Clemson. And now
Kendall Browse.
Yeah, Kendall Browse is now there now.
So, and you see that exchange of offensive coordinators, because TCU wouldn't have been what they were last year if it wasn't for Riley. And we're going into Clemson hiring within their program last year for their coordinator. They hired, I think, one of the positional coaches, and we saw the downfall of their offensive production. Yeah, DJ Uiagalelei couldn't make a read to save his life because he didn't really have a coordinator there. And then you bring in Riley over from TCU, and now Clemson's back in contention for another playoff spot because the coordinators matter more in today's day and age than they have in recent years. And now coaches can be more game managers than anything else, be CEOs of the team rather than running a branch of it and just kind of taking away time. Like Nick Saban has not had to call a defensive play, and I since maybe like 2015, 2012, probably farther back than that, just because that's the kind of coach that he is. And we've seen the success level of coaches who manage the team, not the offense, not the defense, but the team itself. And I think that's why Hugh Freeze making a great decision with Phil Montgomery here.
And I think it speaks to also the type of coach he was looking for in his coordinators. If you recall, the offensive and defensive coordinator were head coaches elsewhere, which means they know what they're doing. And so he doesn't have to be. He was at a smaller division. He wasn't at a high level, but yeah, he for a very small school, and then he went off to be a defensive coordinator, I think, at Louisiana. But yes, like these guys have ran teams, so they're pretty much hands-off types of guys that he can trust with schemes and whatnot. But Dustin, obviously this has to give us, and these guys have already alluded to it, it gives you comfort given the PTSD we've had as Auburn fans watching the handoff, give it back as it pertains to play calling duties from the head coach. It has to make you feel good about that.
Yeah, some of the things that stood out to me was like, so to Dylan's point about Hugh saying, I've sat down with these coaches, so I have to change up my terminology. I like that paranoia. Like, that's how these good coaches, they're that way, man. They don't let any little detail like that go unturned. I want a head coach that's super, super paranoid, that's not worried about posting workout pictures or skiing pictures on Lake Martin, right? You know. And as far as like his focus right now, and Dylan makes a great point about where college football is going, I think a lot of that is because of the portal, because of NIL, because of all these things. It's like if you look at the pro game, a guy like Sean McVay, right? He can be involved a lot in the game planning and the offense because the NFL is really just about ball. Like I know that doesn't match the narrative, right? Because the narrative is college is all about the love of the game, and then the NFL is a business. No, college has become more of a business, honestly. Becoming a college coach right now, they're earning that paycheck. I don't want to hear people complaining about a college coach's paycheck right now. They're earning it, man. The stuff they have to do behind the scenes to keep their programs, to stay up and have to at night, have to worry about what 120 19-year-olds are doing with all this money they're getting for the first, like it's just, it's crazy what they have to go through. So just, it's kind of, Dylan made a very good point. So that's just where the game is at. These college coaches have to be these CEO types. They can't be as involved. So to have a guy like Philip Montgomery, who we've all, it's talking season. Everybody's podcast have done his numbers with RG3. We've all seen it. We know that Ron Roberts is an experienced guy. So it makes sense. Hugh steps back. I can trust these guys to run this right here. I have to get this locker room back straight, because that's one thing that it sounds corny, man. It sounds corny to say stuff like, we got to work together as a team and blah, 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 blah. But like, it matters when you're in the trenches in the fourth quarter versus Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU. That kind of stuff matters. And Hugh's not going to snap his fingers and get it right like this season. He's not. Right. He can make improvements on the culture, but he can't fix it right now. He just can't. Right. It's going to be a work in progress. So I think that he understands that. And then as far as the recruiting, and one last point on this, I think it's funny when Hugh gets some of these answers, because there's a lot of all shucks. Like when he says, I haven't been one of the best play callers, and especially in recruiting, I'm going to try to get these guys. And then he flips Connor Lew and he flips Keldrick Fall, and he's after all the, and it's just like, there's a lot of all shucks in front of the camera, and then behind the scenes getting it after it like a straight dog. So
isn't that great?
Yeah, I like it.
Isn't it great?
And I think it fits. I think it fits Auburn, man. I think it fits our fan base. I just kind of think it fits the way that we run. We want to shake everyone says when they come to Auburn, right? This is such a fun place, and you guys were so nice to us, and yada yada yada. And then secretly, like we're trying to put the boot on your throat, man. We're trying to hope you had a good time. Come get some good lemonade, but we're trying to spank you by 40. And I think that all shucks mentality, that's kind of what Hugh has too. And it's fun to see, man. I'm excited.
Agreed. Yeah. Listen, before we get to some of the to the break, I want to run through some of these comments, may get a few of you guys' thoughts. Appreciate you guys for commenting with us as well. Drop a super chat if you definitely want it read. Brad Browning says Elijah McAllister is an impressive dude, smart, well-spoken, contributes to the community. I'm really happy AU got him. Gentlemen, thoughts about him? I see why people were saying he's a huge locker room guy, leadership, all these things. You can see it oozing out of him when he speaks. You can see how players in the locker room would get behind him. It's kind of difficult to not get behind a guy like him. Thoughts on him?
One thing that stood out to me about Elijah McAllister was not just how he presented at SEC Media Days and the things that the coaches had to say about him, both Clark Lee and Hugh Freeze, but the fact that when we had the Fireside Chat, which is live on the YouTube channel right now, you'll see Fireside Chat. I just had to plug that. But also, Coy Moore, Camden Brown, and Jay Fair, wide receivers who are not on the same side of the ball as Elijah McAllister, who are not in the same position group as Elijah McAllister, made mention of Elijah McAllister's value to the locker room and the team. They didn't know this dude before a few months ago.
Right.
Like, it's one thing when you have to see people, you know how whenever somebody's recruiting, right? And we hear, oh, well, we got his roommate recruited to us, or maybe, not his roommate, his teammate, right? They play at the same high school. That doesn't mean as much as you think it means, because just because they're on the same team doesn't mean they like each other. That doesn't mean they know each other. Dudes click up and they hang. Like, you could tell that Camden and Coy and Jay hang, but that doesn't mean that you bring a cornerback in with them and it was going to be the same chemistry. But you can tell when guys actually hang out with each other and they like each other. Elijah McAllister doesn't play ball with the wide receivers, but they respected him. They had respect for a guy that just got here that they didn't know before the 1st of January of this year, that they don't have to interact with every time in practice. The offense isn't just yucking it up with the defense in practice. All like that doesn't happen a lot. That means that he's had an impact, not just on the coaches, the people who recruited him here, but on the people who just saw him carrying himself in practice and in the locker room. They were like, you know what? I buy it. And that's not easy. That is not easy. You can have anybody come up and say, I'm a leader, and yeah, I'm here. I'm like kind of what TJ Finley did, right? Just repeating all the stuff that the coaches say do, and yeah, the plays, but it's like people didn't really, the locker room didn't really get behind him like that. Like, there were people who thought he might be a better option at quarterback, so they were like, hey, you know what? I'm a TJ fan. He might throw the ball a little better than Robbie can. But I don't think people really roll for TJ like that. And I think that showed. Elijah McAllister is actually a leader. And one thing about being a leader, like anything else, if you are that dude, you don't really have to say it. People will say it for you. That's impressive. That's impressive to me. That we have one of those guys in the locker room is huge. That Hugh Freeze may have started really nailing this culture turnaround down quickly. That's a really good sign. So that's the biggest part of what I got out of Elijah McAllister's presence on the team and at media days.
Well said. Well said. I'm going to get on to some more comments, guys. Christian Crawford says, I actually don't like all caps, how Hugh Freeze is downplaying the season in the media. I wonder how players feel about his skepticism concerning the team's skill, talent, success this upcoming season. I think this has to do a lot with what you said, Dustin, how Hugh Freeze has this all shucks mentality, kind of like he's sitting on a whole, like 2 jokers, 6 spades, and aces and hearts and diamonds. Like he's like, oh man, I don't know about this hand, but he's getting ready to just cut everything, right? So yeah. I think there's a quiet confidence about him, and you kind of heard it when he was speaking with the media, talking about his history. He talked about what he did at Ole Miss, like the fact that at Arkansas State they had losing seasons up until the point he got there, and they won 10 games. He goes to Ole Miss where they hadn't won an SEC game in 2 seasons, and they go 7-5 bowl eligible. He go to Liberty where he actually thought he wasn't going to do well because they were making a big leap to the FBS. He turns them around in 2 seasons. And so everywhere he's gone, he's been able to turn the program around. They may not be competing for championships in year 1, but you can clearly see he has them going in the right direction after year 1. And I think what Hugh Freeze is doing, and it's kind of a gamesmanship, but it's being respectful to the fact that the SEC is a competitive league where a lot of programs are indeed getting better. And so I think he can only talk about what he's done. And he says Auburn has improved. I don't know if Ole Miss has improved. I don't know if Arkansas has improved. We'll know that when we play them or once the season starts and we see what teams are looking like. All I know is what Auburn looks like. And I think to a degree, you're not going to see a lot of bravado because, again, he understands he's in the middle of a rebuild. He's in the middle of a project. And so I'm not going to talk about what we're doing. We're just going to do. And so I think that's a lot of what you're hearing, Christian. I don't expect him to be talking a lot of junk after for a program that went 5-7 and has 2 losing seasons 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And the last guy said, just watch, right? He had plenty of bravado up there, and it didn't amount to anything.
It didn't amount to much.
And then and Christian, I understand your point. I would say this though, was a couple of weeks ago, the clip was going around on social media of Hugh giving a pregame speech. It was one of their back-to-back victories versus Alabama. He wasn't very all shucks and ho hum in that speech. He had them boys ready to go. It fired me up. So he's got a lot of fire, man. Don't worry about that. He's talking to those guys a lot different than what he's talking to the media.
Absolutely. Chris S says defensive line play is my biggest red flag for the upcoming season.
I'm still worried about it.
Yeah, I'm with this.
If you paid attention to what happened in the spring game, I get it. I totally get it. And I'm curious just to see. Again, you got new faces up on the defensive line. You lost Kobe Wooden. That's a big loss.
Yep.
And so those are some big shoes to fill. So I get it. I understand the concern here. But they got some dudes. They did pick up some dudes in the offseason through the transfer portal. So I'm curious to see how they get plugged in and how they begin to gel. We talked about the offensive line gelling. Defensive line got the gel too. We actually got a video out with Takeo Spikes, and he was talking about how you can be good as a linebacker, but you got to have people in front of you who make your job easier. And so the play of the defensive line is going to be important. We're going to keep a close eye on that.
I think the linebacker core is a bigger red flag than the D-line is.
I mean, they have a lot to prove too, Dylan. I agree with that. They have a lot to prove as well. So it's I think the only people who you can kind of give a pass to is the secondary because of how they've looked over the past few seasons. But the front seven absolutely are a question mark.
Yeah.
Wesley Hilson says Ken Austin will have it all figured out in the QB room. That guy is special at teaching. We're going to get to some more comments, guys, especially after we get through the drawing, but we got a few more topics to tackle. But we appreciate you guys catching us so far throughout this first part of the show. Do us a favor, share this content on social media, smash that like button, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's take a break, pause to acknowledge our show sponsors.
This edition of the War Rapport is brought to you by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Harmon Mechanical, a heating and air company offering premier service to the Auburn area and surrounding areas. Give them a call at 334-219-0717 or head over to their website at harmonmechanical.com. Let them know the War Rapport sent you. Harmon Mechanical. We're there when you need air. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. For all of your motor oil and related products, head over to wareagleoil.com.
Special shouts out to our sponsors. We appreciate you. Also, guys, please join and become a member of the War Rapport family. $5.99 a month will get you there. Throughout this offseason, we've been dropping content behind the paywall, film reviews, giving you close and up close view of our newest additions to our roster, so you can see how those guys look, what you can expect in the upcoming season. But as we get closer to the season, this is where you really get a lot of your money's worth as we begin to do special stuff in light of the season and whatnot. Definitely want to do that. Also, if you want to gift the membership, you can also do that as well. Just click the button on our page to gift those memberships. And again, we can't say thank you enough to those of you who have done that. We've grown exponentially. And again, you'll get a free month of access to our behind the wall content. And after that month is up, if you enjoyed your access, you can re-up for $5.99. We definitely would love to see that. Also, we definitely want to say shouts out and give loves to Harmon Mechanical. They're there when you need air, guys. And this is the summer. It's July. It's hot. You need AC. So if you don't have AC and you're in the Auburn area, please be sure to reach out to harmonmechanical.com. You can see the number listed there. Our own B. Will has used them, and he's been pretty pleased with them, especially in the house where there's central heating and air. He's in the outskirts of kind of his house right now, so he's kind of going through it. But you don't have to go through it when you use Harmon Mechanical. Please hit them up. Shouts out to them for being our sponsor. And we're giving away, guys, a t-shirt. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up, courtesy of War Eagle Oil. Please drop the hashtag in the comments. We will draw in the next few minutes. Also, definitely want to hit up War Rapport Network, our podcast network. We got special members from the College Loop Up-Tempo podcast with us tonight. Definitely go and check out, subscribe to them. Go subscribe to their YouTube page as well, guys. Definitely do that. Let's get back to it. All right, guys. let's talk QB battle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk QB competition before we get to the break. Hugh Freeze really likes, he downplayed this one a little bit, talking about, well, I am an optimist. Okay, Hugh. But he said that I really think this is a good QB room. And he talked about the difference that Peyton Thorne has made in terms of getting on campus and just showing like Elijah McAllister, showing his leadership acumen and how his play has kind of really raised the level of play for the other guys. And he's expecting good competition between Robbie Ashford, Holden Geriner, as well as Peyton Thorne. He also said that, hey, I know we can't really do a lot with 4 QBs in the fall in terms of getting them equal reps. So he's going to look to his coordinators, Kent Austin, to put together a plan to narrow this competition down. But it looks like there may be an actual competition in the fall. What do you guys think about that?
Well, from the quarterbacks, automatically assume it's going to be Robbie Ashford and Peyton Thorne, just because I think Holden Geriner, for the talent that he has potential for, I think he plays the same as Peyton Thorne does. And Peyton Thorne is just more revised because, he's a veteran quarterback. So you basically have to go into this fall camp. Do you want to run the ball efficiently with Robbie Ashford, or do you want to have a good intermediate passing game that Auburn has not had in a very long time with Peyton Thorne? And then you have to decide, are you wanting to pick one or the other and just roll with that guy? Or again, do you want to try to work them both in? And I think if you want to start Peyton Thorne, I think that starts you off with a really good quarterback starting off the season. But with Robbie Ashford's playmaking ability, you can't keep him off the field. It's like Jeremiah Cobb. Just the speed, the agility that Robbie Ashford holds, it's hard for me to keep him off the field. And I'm a Robbie Ashford truther. So that might be a little biased for me saying that, but I cannot, of myself, keep Robbie Ashford off that field.
Be Will. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, I think we have lamented that we feel strongly that it's Peyton Thorne, but it seems like Hugh Freeze is not closing the door, and he shouldn't, but it seems like he's giving a little possibility for Dylan to be right here. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, come on, y'all.
I'm with you.
Robbie's not gonna start. All right, Dylan. I don't even disagree with you. All right, I love what Robbie can do, and I think he showed a lot playing through a terrible season behind a terrible line with terrible game plans and an offense that was given to him by the bucket full instead of by the fork full, like it should have been the type of offense that Harsin wanted to run, which is, again, if you watched the Fireside Chat, the guys talked about how discouraging it was trying to learn that offense. Like, it was just too complicated. They said that their position coach, Ike Hilliard, was having trouble digesting that offense. It was too complicated. So if Robbie Ashford had to deal with that, then not only did you have to know what you were supposed to do, you had to know what the wide receivers were supposed to do too. It was too much. So he got dealt a bad hand. I like that he toughed it out, though. So yes, I am on record repeatedly saying I think our highest ceiling is with Robbie Ashford, but that is a time investment that I don't think Hugh Freeze has. You don't burn 5 or 6 weeks trying to get Robbie Ashford in the flow of designing whatever your passing game is going to be before he kind of reaches his ceiling in that passing game, only for Peyton Thorne to need like 3 weeks. And the passing game he'll still probably be more accurate than Robbie Ashford would with the same number of reps in the system. Yes, you forego a lot of running ability if you start Peyton Thorne over Robbie Ashford. But what have we heard Hugh Freeze say repeatedly? Culture, leadership. He's telegraphed that from day one, the first day he took the job. And whether it was on the field or whispers in the offseason, we have heard repeatedly that Robbie Ashford has had issues with maturity and leadership. I think that put Robbie at number 2 from the jump. And he is going to have to win the job or get the job by injury, or he's going to have to just go and be passing out of his mind to show up Peyton Thorne in fall camp, which means you didn't have a better day than Peyton Thorne. You had a better 2 weeks passing the ball than Peyton Thorne did, which means they're running crossers and you're not throwing it behind dudes, so they got to twist and catch it and keep going. That means you're hitting them in stride and nobody has to break down and catch a ball, and then it's an 8-yard gain instead of a 20-yard gain. He would have to do that, outpass Peyton Thorne for a couple of weeks in order to beat him. It would have to be so obvious. We can't pass this up, Robbie. You're QB1. I don't think that's going to happen.
It'd be cool.
So I think it's going to be
because it'd be pretty freaking awesome if he was.
That would be that'd be the best case scenario.
Yeah.
At his best, I want y'all to think a minute about what Nick Marshall was at his best. The offense was geared around him and his running ability. Also, we had an awesome fullback and an awesome running back. I get sad that we didn't win a championship this season, but still, I want you to think about what Nick Marshall was at his best. We have fond memories now. Nick Marshall missed wide open wide receivers sometimes.
In the championship game, he was one.
In the championship game, the play worked great. It was some of Gus's best work, and Ricardo Lewis was out there wide open, and he just missed it. Why are we okay for having that from Nick Marshall? Because every other time he touches the ball, he was dangerous. He was so dangerous that you forgive that because you know what you're going to get. The vast majority of the 90% of the plays where he doesn't miss or he doesn't make the wrong read. I think we've got that type of talent with Robbie Ashford. But the question is Hugh Freeze going to be okay with you missing that one bomb to that wide receiver, buddy? I don't think so. I don't think we have that type of head coach right now. Like, okay, it's all right on that one. We'll get it back later. You miss a wide open wide receiver with the arm that you got, buddy, you on the bench. Sit down. Hugh Freeze wants a passing offense, a coherent, consistent, on-schedule passing offense. If Robbie's inability to be consistently accurate threatens that, even though his ceiling may be incredible with his athleticism, he's not going to win this job. That's what I think we may be looking at here. But I think the reason you hear him talking positively about Robbie is, dude, we are one sore shoulder from Peyton Thorne away from you being the starter. Yeah, I'm not about to throw the dirt on you right now. Why? We haven't even started camp yet. Quarterbacks might not even make it out of camp healthy. I need you, buddy. So I'm going to pump you up. I'm going to talk about how dangerous you can be. I'm going to look forward to how dangerous you can be athletically. I got Phil Montgomery here. Worked wonders with an athletic quarterback. Why? Because you don't know when you're going to need these guys. He may end up needing every last quarterback on the roster. It actually happened last year for him at Liberty. QB4. He beat Arkansas with QB3. You need not Nick Marshall, of course. I would love to have him.
I would love to have him back there. Yeah.
You need Robbie Ashford, which is why you're going to hear this. I don't know. Robbie Ashford might be right there. Yeah, he's right there. Anybody who I might need at the drop of a hat in the next 6 months, I love them. They're my best friend. Until they graduate or transfer, then I don't need them anymore. That's how it works. So, yeah, he's going to talk positive, kind of like the old shucks that Dustin was talking about. Yeah, why would he say, I don't know, man, Robbie can't really pass accurately enough? No, why would he ever say anything like that? I need him, and I need him to be positive and upbeat and ready to take the job if the circumstances present themselves. Yes, that's what he's going to say. So I still don't think it's a real competition. It is, but what they're going to ask them to do is going to make it where it's not really a competition in the fall.
Well, the stability that Robbie Ashford has, Robbie Ashford's going on his third quarterback coach in 2 years. And all we've talked about, he has to refine his consistency in the passing game. But the thing that a lot of people, a lot of fans get behind Robbie Ashford for, he's a gamer. He is not going to count himself out of any situation. And that's probably the best thing a quarterback can have. And I know he's been getting a lot of flack for wearing his heart on his sleeve. That Ole Miss game where he got in Tank Bigsby's face to say, don't give up on me, don't give up on the play when I can make something happen. That's something about Robbie Ashford that makes him different than Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne he went around and asked all the staffers at the football facility for their pictures so he can learn their names. Robbie Ashford's been there for 2 years now at Auburn. He knows the campus. But just watching Robbie Ashford, that Bama game, he kept Auburn in that Bama game for what it was worth because of his ability to make plays happen against the Bama defense. I mean, we threw for more yards against Alabama than we ever have with Robbie Ashford at quarterback. And you watch him play, and he can run the ball. He puts his body on the line down by 20 against Alabama. And that alone won him the fan base. And he's gone into an offseason where all he's heard about is Auburn needs to get a quarterback. Auburn needs to get a quarterback to put over Robbie Ashford. He needs a quarterback to make Robbie Ashford learn how to play quarterback better. Robbie Ashford has the heart and he has a dog in him is what I he's a dog in him, where he's not just going to take a quarterback coming in as this is the end for my quarterback career before Walker White comes in next year. I think it's going to make it close strictly because I think Robbie Ashford, for what he lacks as a consistent passer, he makes it for his ability to want to be better and want to win games for Auburn football. Because you can't put your body on the line like he does down by 20 and not want to win the game no matter what the score deficit is, what the team's doing, what the O-line, how the O-line isn't blocking for him. That's my thing with Robbie Ashford, that I think that this quarterback battle is a whole lot closer than people might be thinking.
Dustin, any thoughts on this? Want to weigh in?
Yeah, so I love Robbie first, and I agree with a lot of what Dylan's saying about laying the body on the line. And just as a fan, I don't care if we never pass the ball again. I'm serious. I love running the ball down a team's throat. I watched what we did in 2013. Those games where we ran the ball or threw the ball, 7-8 times and won the game. I think back to that trip to Tennessee.
Oh yeah, man.
That
was crazy.
I think we completed 3 passes that day and beat them by 30 points. So I love running the ball in between the tackles and just demoralizing the team. I just fan preference. I like running quarterbacks over a passing quarterback. It's more exciting to watch. So, but I have to go okay, there's the QB series on Netflix right now, right? Go watch that. Everything that it takes to be a quarterback, it's so much involved in it, man. And the SEC is right there. That's basically AAA to the NFL being the major leagues, right? It's right there at it. So to be the quarterback of an SEC program, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So the fan in me, yeah, Peyton Thorne hasn't played a down for Auburn. So I'm pulling for 9. But I hear what I hear, and I'm hearing it from people that I trust. And leadership is going to be crucial under Hugh Freeze. That's why he went and got a guy like Walker White, the intangibles, because Walker White's not going to be ready to play right away. He's got some accuracy. He's got some footwork stuff that he needs to work on. And frankly, they don't play a high level of competition in Arkansas. He's not going to come in as a freshman and play is what I'm saying. It's a project. But Hugh looks at those intangibles, and and obviously Walker can play. So he's not going to get a guy just because he's a good kid. I'm not saying that. But it's just I hear too much stuff about the maturity issues and the leadership stuff with Robbie for me to say, okay, it's too much of a red flag, man. I can't ignore it. It's just such a crucial part of because the whole team's looking at you. You're the leader of. The Auburn football program is the face of the university, and the quarterback is a byproduct. He's a face of that, right? So it's got to be a guy that has all of these things in a row. And I'm pulling for Robbie. I hope he's the guy. I love the way he plays. I like Dylan said, hard on the sleeve. I love that competitor in him. He played hurt when some other guys in that quarterback room didn't want to go in, So I respect and love Robbie for all that. But I just think that at the end of the day, he's going to really, really have to beat Peyton Thorne and can't. Because if it's anywhere close and the leadership and all those intangibles are what we're hearing, then Peyton's going to get the nod there.
Yeah.
Good talk, gentlemen. Listen, let's go ahead and get into our drawing. We're at the hour mark. Just for those who don't recall, we're giving away a War Rapport t-shirt courtesy of War Eagle Oil. Guys, please be sure to enter hashtag. We're at 65. Not bad for tonight, but definitely going to give you some time to get in here to enter the win. Hashtag get your weight up to enter to win. Not really going up there yet, but we're about to see. Let me bring this in real quick here. I'm about to draw 5, 4, 3, 2. I see 67. Can we get to 70? Can we get to 70? I see y'all entering it in. I'm gonna go ahead and draw because some of y'all have seen y'all hearing it more than once.
Go ahead and run that thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and run it. Who is it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Derek Long. Derek Long, are you here? Are you here, Derek Long? Let us know. I'm trying to see if I saw you comment recently, but comment below and let us know if you're still here. Hopefully you are, so that we don't have to redo this again.
We'll see. For him.
Yeah, let's keep an eye out for him, guys. Let's get to some of the comments. Imani Smoot says everybody dealing with injuries. If you were me, I think you as me, injured or not, here we come. 15-0. That's the optimism that I've been missing from you, Imani.
Let's go, Imani. Let's go.
15-0.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you with the optimism. That's Imani.
From your fingertips to God's ears.
Hey, listen, Dylan Dustin, it got so bad last year. Imani lost his optimism. Okay, so this is normal Imani here. That's how bad things got. Imani was like, "Yo, we bad, yo." All right, Auburn Dad says,
"Well, hold up, dear longest."
Oh, you got him?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what we need for you to do, sir? Congratulations. We need you to email us business@the-war report. Business@the-war report. We need your shirt size and physical address, and that t-shirt will be coming to you. Congratulations, and thanks again for supporting us. Auburn Dad for Life says the player's suit game was ice and on par.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Elijah McAllister's suit was clean. I like Luke Deal. I like the little the work he had on the inside with the AU with the Auburn. I like that, the Tiger. That was nice. Yeah, they were all dressed nice. So yeah, looking good there, fellas. Lawrence asks, do you think Sean Jackson and Cobb gets carries with Batty being injured and the Jarquez Hunter situation? Thoughts, gentlemen?
They're going to carries no matter what. And Jeremiah Cobb is a talent that you can't keep off the field. And I would not be surprised if Jeremiah Cobb found a way to lead the team in rushing against UMass, just because of you don't know if Jarquez is going to play yet. It would not hurt to keep Brian Batty out against UMass. It wouldn't hurt to keep a couple of guys out against UMass just to make sure they're all healthy and ready to go by the time you have to travel to California the next week. But I mean, Jeremiah Cobb, I think Sean Jackson has the ability. Sean Jackson, if you get down the 1 yard line, dude's a bowling ball. So let him go down the middle of the offensive line, knock down 11 pins, and get a touchdown. These two guys are Auburn's running back goes 5 deep, so these guys are definitely going to get carries no matter what.
Yeah, I think so too. They'll get carries. I don't know how many. I think Batty and I don't think Jarquez misses an entire game of football this year. I just don't. I know Hugh Freeze could not comment on it. All right, but what he did is he basically kicked it to it being a university policy. Which, don't get me wrong, nothing good is going to come from an incident that is based in something sexual. Like, you don't touch that you have no reason to be commenting about players' sex lives or anything related to that. So you say nothing, which is the right thing to say. Even if he could say something, he should have said exactly what he said, which is, I'm not commenting on university investigations. Correct answer, Hugh Freeze. I think what you might see is what happened with Alabama, except, I mean, their guy had guns and drugs and speeding, and I don't know, there was a lot of stuff. But what you're going to hear is, oh, we're going to look into this, and some time's going to go by, fall camp's going to go by, and then the week of, you go, Jarquez is back, he's going to play. And that's it. Oh, the investigation is concluded right here before UMass. What do you know? He's good, so go get those yards, Jarquez. That's what you're going to do. That's what I do. Absolutely. They know he's going to play now. They just not going to say.
That's what I do.
That's exactly what I would do. I'm like, oh, after we investigated this for 3 months, guys, it was so many details to comb through, but we just found out today, the first Monday of the season, before the first game, that Jarquez is completely innocent and everything is all good.
It does set up to be just exactly like that, D.
Yeah.
But any other thoughts, guys, on this?
Yeah, I just wouldn't be surprised if Cobb, now learning what we learned about Batty, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Cobb came in there, running back's a position where a freshman can step in early and contribute. If Batty's not ready to go week one, say Jarquez, just say he gets a game, right? And then what if Cobb steps in and bang? And you've got that NCAA rule now where a freshman can play 4 games without using up a year of his eligibility. So why wouldn't you get him the carries in a game like UMass? Like last year, you wanted to do that with a guy like Damari in a game versus San Jose State, and you're in a ball game with San Jose State in the fourth quarter, and you don't get to do it. So get up on these teams early, these UMasses, these Sanfords. Look, little plug, we interviewed the play-by-play announcer for UMass yesterday. It was up on our up now on the channel, man. And he said best case scenario for UMass, like dream season for them, is winning 3 games this year. So pound the rock first, these guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Jeremiah, if you're up early and Jeremiah can get in there, man, if he makes the most of his carries, what if he has 12, 15 carries and goes over 100 yards? Then you got to step back and say, well, we got to give him the rock, right? This injury could mess Batty up, man. It really could.
Yeah. I don't know if Sean Jackson gets a lot of carries.
I don't see it either, really.
I don't think Sean. And it's unfortunate because he was toting that rock during the spring game. So I want to see
goal
him
line stuff. Give him some 4th and 1. Give him some goal line packages. I don't know why.
There may be some of that in his future, maybe. Yeah. But I was impressed with how he ran the ball just between the 20s. Like, he can run the ball. So I just don't think there's enough carries for him, given how if Cobb is as good as they say he is. I don't see a lot of carries for Sean Jackson.
Justice for the fullback position, might I add?
Yeah,
bring the H-back back.
Hey, he could be Cameron Petway, right? So let's just see. Who knows? Also, Jaquan Grant says that you hear the former DC Derek Mason say Auburn finally have a head coach that knows and is willing to go out and recruit in the land of the SEC. That tells me Harsin didn't put any effort into recruiting. I mean, if you listen to some of what these recent recruits have had to say, Blockton, I mean, who's the brother of Marcus Harris, who's on this team while he was being recruited. I mean, that should tell you everything right there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just think as time goes on, we hear more and more about some of the failures of recruiting with the previous staff. And it's unfortunate when you had guys like Caddy, you had same guys who are on this staff now. Yeah. And you're hearing that from our former head coach. So it's disappointing, but we're in a better place now. Yeah. We're in a much better place now. So I'm happy for it. Auburn Dad for Life says, isn't it just me or I can't wait for some AU football? Listen, Media Days is usually the start of usually it used to be the last week of the month. And then we would go right into the fall camp. But we got 2 weeks ahead, but we got Big Cat next week. We got a lot of stuff to look forward to. Yeah, we do. So we're getting very close. So it's almost here. I'm excited to talk some football and see what this team is really going to look like. I'm going to get to some more comments, guys. Let's give B Will what he wants.
What that? Oh, okay.
You forgot. You forgot. You forgot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't forget. So we talked about Hugh Freeze, talking about he's going to give up play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Drinkwitz.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about giving up play calling.
Mm-hmm. He should.
Dylan says he should. You know who isn't quite ready to give up play calling, or at least isn't indicated that he will? Who be? Take it away.
Jimothy
T. Fisher. T is for what?
Trash boat. Listen, this gentleman probably got the heist of the century when he signed that contract with Texas A&M. And then you have a 5-7 season. He was probably it's good. He was probably trying to get fired last season, but they wouldn't let him off the hook. See, he's not. He might be smarter than I thought he was. Like, listen, I got the money; it's guaranteed. I'm trying to get out of here. And they were like, no, you got to come finish the job. And he was like, damn it. All right, I'll do something. I figured. I think it's no secret that Jimothy's offense is the biggest problem with his team, aside from the outright, what I think is just no charisma from a grown-up who's in charge of as big an operation as an SEC football team is. Like, zero charisma. He just talks fast and says nothing. And apparently that works somewhere. I don't know. Somebody believes it. I believe at one point he was good at football, at offense. He was the OC for the national championship team LSU that Saban had at LSU in 03. Okay? These people aren't idiots, but the game can pass you by. You can get outdated. What you do can be a memory, and then you're still trying to do it, and it's not going anymore. So when you get all these recruits and they're wide receiver recruits and running backs, and Your offense can look okay at times, but that's really the best. So what are you doing, man? What standard are you playing to? What's the point of bringing in all this talent and then struggling with the least talented Auburn team in like 25 years? What? Why can we beat you on a football field when it's been the worst offensive line group that we've had in forever? At the time, I'd say combination of the offense and the injuries, the worst quarterback room that we've had in forever. Well, no. When was Kyle Frazier the quarterback?
2012.
Okay, so Clint Mosley. Yeah, okay, so scratch that. It wasn't the worst quarterback room in forever. Definitely one of the worst quarterback rooms in forever. There was so little that was coherently good about Auburn. We had the mark of a great coach is when your talent can match equal talent. You beat teams that you're more talented than. You at least a coin flip with teams that are equally as talented. And every now and then you beat a team that's more talented than you. That makes you a great coach. What Jimbo Fisher has done with elite talent over the last 5 years, I don't know, man. It should be a crime. He's getting paid for it, though. He should be behind bars in Texas, at least. But he's getting paid for it. He does not have the self-awareness that we just talked about Hugh Freeze having. Hey, you know what? Maybe this operation needs more hands-on from me. I need to let this go because it's taking too much of my attention. So I'm going to give this to somebody that's competent, that I can trust, and I'm going to mind these other things that have to happen. I was a little worried going into the season that Texas A&M might be good, that they might be good. I mean, like actually good, because they do have talent. They have had talent since he's gotten there. They've had talent since Kevin Sumlin was there. That hasn't changed. He also had the exact same issue, which is that good talent plays worse as a team when he gets them. That means you're a bad coach. He hired Bobby Petrino, and I got worried because I was like, man, Bobby Petrino, he might be, the devil incarnate, but man knows his X's and O's. He knows his X's and O's. I thought they might be decent, at least. DJ Durkin's still there in the driver's seat on defense. He's not the best defensive coordinator, but he's got talent, and he had a year to carry over from the defensive coordinator that they lost. This should be an improvement for them. Bobby Petrino could be an improvement for their offense. I was worried. That's week 4, man. We haven't come together yet. Half the team is brand new for Auburn. Are we going to lose to Texas A&M within the first month of the season? I would hate that. And then Jimbo said, well, I don't know how that's going to work yet with the play calls. Oh, yes. He hadn't learned shit. It's going to be terrible. I can't wait for Bobby Petrino to be red as a beet up in the play calling booth, face turning red and hitting on stuff like this because Jimothy is overriding. Yes. Okay. Because Jimothy's going to be overriding his play calls with a bad play call that doesn't make any sense. And the quarterback is going to get caught in the crossfire. And the offense is not going to make any sense. I can see that happening. There's always a chance that if the talent is good enough, if you pick the right offensive lineman, quarterback, running back, if your guys are just that good, they can overcome the deficiency of a coaching staff. Elite talent can overcome poor coaching. Yes, that can happen. Is there a chance that could happen to A&M? Sure, it's possible. So I can't say for sure that's going to be a mess over there this season. But I am really hoping that what I heard from him was a commitment to mediocrity that I expect from Jimbo Fisher, which is I'm not going to give the much better offensive coordinator and play caller control. I am going to keep control of the offense when I have been terrible at it for years in a row. That's what I hope I am hearing from him. I would love for his tenure to end in, at the very least, a disappointing season. 5-7 was unimaginable. I can't imagine anybody making $10 million a year to not win 6 games and to lose to a Group of 5 school. Like, under what world does he still have his job? I don't even understand why that's real. But I would love it if he went like 6-6 this year and then got fired. I would love it.
If he
Do I
goes
think
6-6, he ain't getting fired at the end of the season. They fire him probably in the middle of it.
You're right. They probably would. You're right. They probably would. There's a chance.
I don't think he gets.
I'm holding out hope, though. I'm holding out hope. I don't care if it's because the offense doesn't work and it's janky because they can't decide who's running what. I don't care if it's because, things don't go great and they get a couple of injuries, as all teams do. Maybe they're just depending on one or two really, really key guys to carry the terrible coaching staff and coaching game plans. But those guys got to get kicked off the team because Jimbo has shown instability in the team and in the roster because those guys don't respect him because he's a clown. Okay, that has been consistent. I'm hoping that something upsets the balance there this season so he can go 6-6 or however much it will take, however many losses it takes for him to lose his job. I am rooting for that. I am hoping for that. And I'm hoping that answer at ACC Media Days is just a little taste of the delusion that still dances around in Jimbo's head. That's what I'm hoping.
I'm not as worried like I was. Well, if this is true that he is not, and I don't know, maybe he's bad at gamesmanship himself. I don't know, but if there's any indication that there's going to be a struggle with control of the offense, I feel so much better about that game in College Station. Much better. Yes.
There's going to be 2 winners in College Station in week 4. It's going to be the Auburn Tigers and Jimbo Fisher's bank account.
Oh yeah.
Feeling with that,
he's gonna win.
They lose that game to Miami, and then we beat them, and they're 2-2. Oh man!
Hey, Les Miles got fired in week 4 of 2016 after Auburn beat him.
He did.
History tends to repeat itself.
You need to work on your most epic Jimbo rant because it may be your last. Okay, so
that would suck.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta go. You gotta just empty the clip. All right. Don't save nothing because there's gonna be. You won't have no extra clips and Jimbo's not around. What you need the clips for?
Hey, he's gonna be a great offensive analyst for Alabama or Georgia to get carried to another national championship as well.
That's probably exactly where he will end up being as an analyst for Bama, buried forever. He won't ever get the OC job, but he'll be an analyst. Auburn Dad for Life says, see Justin Dumbo ain't earning his paycheck. Keep robbing Texas A&M.
Hey, he's robbing 5-star receivers out of our backyard too that we're trying to get. He's doing something.
Man. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, that's Damien. I credit Damian Craig for that.
Yeah, or whoever's writing those paychecks out there, but we'll leave that alone.
That part too. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sanford Johnson says Jimothy did to Texas A&M what Houston Nutt did to Ole Miss. Scam of the decade. Good comparison because what Houston Nutt did at Ole Miss was awful. Good comparison. Lawrence Robinson says Petrino is there in case there's a midseason firing.
I don't think they want Petrino to be the face of their program, though. That's the problem. Is nobody in their right mind would hire him as a head coach. So I think DJ Durkin would be the head coach before Petrino would be. He's just
You don't want Bob Petrino's in the driver's seat from his history.
I see what you did there.
No motor vehicles.
I see what you did there. James Barnett says, fellas, what do you think about Freeze's comments about Robbie? He hasn't shut the door on him. He said he wasn't opposed to playing both QBs. Also made reference to needing that guy late in the fourth quarter. I'll combine it with this comment from Erica Radney. Says, I'm calling for a 2 QB system. QB1 getting the majority of the snaps with QB2 being used for wildcat, change of pace, or within the red zone. There's a possibility that there could be packages for Robbie Ashford. Should he find himself actually at QB2? But what do you guys think about seeing Robbie Ashford in some sort of action, regardless of where he ends up?
I'm just scarred from the QB changing out last year and it messing up the flow when it seemed like we had a drive going. So I'm all for getting Robbie the ball. Like, he's the most explosive player on our team with the ball in his hands, I believe. But I just don't want it to be at the detriment of the flow of the offense. Like, if you've already moved the ball down to the red zone, why take the guy out that's moved it down there, kind of thing. But at the same time, again, think like he makes plays with the ball in his hands. So that'll just be interesting to see how that goes. As far as a 2 QB system, hell no. Like, we just saw that. Don't want that. But as far as getting Robbie the ball 5-8 times a game, yeah, I'm for that. As long as it doesn't mess up what we got going on.
Well, was last year a true 2 quarterback system, or was that just the offense just fumbling on itself, trying to find a guy who can start?
cluster.
I don't think they had any idea, Dylan.
That it was a cluster because one coach liked one QB, the other coach liked the other, and there was like it was just one big compromise that should have never taken place. And it was to your point, it just we can never, even when TJ was making good plays, you put him on the sideline. Like there's no rhythm established with your QBs.
Yeah, after the big play to Landon King versus Penn State, right? You change him right back out. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so it was just a cluster last year. So I wouldn't use that as a comparison for that wasn't a 2 QB. That wasn't a 2 QB system. That was just
that's fair.
In a way, you could kind of look at 2017. Look at 2017 where Jarrett Stidham would be the quarterback, but you'd also throw in the Wildcat with Kerryon Johnson, and it's different positions. But with Robbie Ashford as a Wildcat, you don't know if he's going to run or pass it, and it's a 50-50 shot every time. And we saw when Kerryon Johnson finally threw the ball, it was a touchdown to Nate Craig-Myers in the end zone in that game that Kerryon Johnson may not should have been taken out in the fourth quarter. We never know what would happen if that would have happened. But if you put Robbie Ashford in those situations in the red zone, you're opening up your playbook more in the red zone. Auburn has struggled in the past ever since the decline of the Malzahn era, that the red zone became more of a place to get Daniel Carlson and Anders Carlson chances to, raise their point totals up in the SEC. Now you have Hugh Freeze and Phil Montgomery, who we've seen in the past, know how to utilize rushing quarterbacks. And if Peyton Thorne starts, you can pass the ball for 80 yards and kind of open up the offense more. And then once you get to 20 yards, your playbook shortens because you can't go deep in 20 yards because you have to throw it just right to get it in the end zone or to get it right where you want it. If you throw Robbie Ashford in the 20 and within 20 yards, you have zone reads, you have triple option, you have play action, zone. It just all that encompasses 20 yards, and you finally have a chance to score in the red zone, something that Auburn fans have not been able to watch since I want to say like 2013 is the last
2017.
time.
We were good in the red zone 2017, yeah.
Blockage.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll definitely see for sure.
One thing I keep thinking about though with the red zone though, because I'm gonna give you that a red zone dual threat quarterback is more dangerous in the red zone. But you know what else is really effective in the red zone? A fade to a tall wide receiver.
Yeah.
Can we throw that? Who can throw that most accurately?
I mean, we got some. We got them this year. Camden.
Yeah. Hooks.
Yeah.
We got a couple of Fairweathers still got to be there.
Hit Rivaldo.
Nick Martiner.
Yeah. I mean, so we've got dudes, and that the thing about the red zone getting worse and worse and worse under Gus, it was because the offensive line got worse and worse and worse under Gus. Red zone success is about offensive line success. Can your guys win? Because if you have a dual threat quarterback, but your offensive line can't hold off the defensive line, then the defensive line is just going to go for what they know. Oh, he's going to run this way. Let's go get him. There's a reason we had a true dual threat quarterback in Bo Nix for 2 full years, well, 3 full years, and our red zone success didn't increase. He was a true dual threat. But if I don't trust your guy to beat me throwing, then all I got to do is press down on the mesh spot. Got him. Because I don't think he's accurate enough to make this throw, or he's going to read what we're going to do on the back end enough to beat me with the ball in his hands. So I can go get him. The dual threat quarterback has to be able to beat you with more than just run. He's got to be a true dual threat. And so far, we've seen so little of Robbie Ashford really trying to pass the ball in an offense that makes sense for him while healthy. We still have no idea how good he can be. And that's really the thing that sucks for him is you can't just take him at what he did last year when he was passing. His shoulder was gone. So I don't want to hold that against him. Also, I don't know that I don't want to hold it against Peyton Thorne if he gets in there and he's throwing dots. Like, I want to give you the opportunity too, because we need somebody who's going to be accurate. We got all these pass catchers now. So, yeah, there's a lot that opens up when you got to do a threat quarterback. But I think most offensive coordinators in any level of football will tell you if you got a guy who can make the right read and the right throw on schedule, that's still the most dangerous guy you can have. So we'll see if Peyton Thorne can be that, or Robbie can maybe do a little better at that. We'll see.
Lisa Daniel says people are going with this narrative that Robbie has leadership issues. I have yet to hear what they are.
It's probably best you don't hear that, Lisa, honestly. It's nothing that we have to talk about. I mean, we saw it on the sideline and he had a little emotional response with Tank, Ole Miss, right? I will say that it is imperative for anybody who's in a leadership position to exude a controlled calmness, because stuff's not always going to go your way. Mm-hmm. And some of the best quarterbacks, Dustin talked about that documentary that's on Netflix with Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Mariota, professionals. Yeah. They are get sacked and good hit, dude. Get up and rallying your troops. Like there's a marked difference between guys who get frustrated when it's not going their way, and no matter what, they are up. Whether they made the winning play, another guy made the winning play, they made a bonehead play, or another guy made the bonehead play. They are the same constantly, all the time. Robbie Ashford didn't have that, and that's all that was visible. Dustin made a comment. There are things that you're going to know if you're plugged in enough. I can't say that that's the entirety of the issue. He has some work to do, and I want y'all to just take it at face value. He has some work to do, but nobody here is saying that he can't do that work and that it's ground that cannot be made up. It can be made up. Will he be given the opportunity to show that he's grown in that area? We don't know, but he does have some work to do. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, and I think Hugh Freeze talked about it during the beginning of spring when he was asked what type of QB that he's looking for. What's an SEC type of quarterback? That was one of the things he was asked about, and one of the things he noted was leadership. And he has been complimentary of Robbie Ashford coming out of spring. He was impressed with some of the strides that he took, but he also went out and got the embodiment of the QB that he was looking for in Peyton Thorne, who has the leadership acumen that he's looking for. This guy he was described as a leader by his former team, right? And he was a two-time starting quarterback. So while there's obviously room for Robbie to grow into that role, the timetable gets cut short when you bring in a guy who already has those intangibles that the coaching staff is looking for. And I think that's what Robbie Ashford is up against with about 5 weeks left before the season starts. So this is going to be interesting to see. Robbie just has a lot of just growing to do, because again, he was basically a true freshman last year. This was his first time actually getting a chance to play or see the field. And so it was a learning experience for him. I hate that was the offense he got a chance to play in for the first time. So a lot of those guys were behind the 8 ball. And so I just think it's going to be interesting to see how he matures and grows under this new coaching staff, who has a track record for doing a lot with QBs. So I think Robbie will be fine, but again, I think our QB room is in much better shape as it's been in the past. Caitlin McCall says, so Bo having a tantrum against South Carolina is okay. No, it wasn't okay.
Oh,
well, that game was
we were kind of alarmed by that when that happened too.
That game was just Bo Nix just targeting Seth Williams every passing play. And Bo Nix had no right to be mad at anybody else but himself, because when you see J.C. Horn, Panthers fan, by the way, when you see J.C. Horn running with Seth Williams, I'm going to look the other way. There's no way I'm trusting a 50-50 ball with one of the best cornerbacks in South Carolina history. Stats don't really show that, but the coverage rates do. And I guess Bo Nix's problem in the last year he was at Auburn is the fact that he didn't trust anybody else on that offense besides Seth Williams. And I wish I could go back and find how many targets Seth Williams had that game, because I feel like all the interceptions that Bo threw were because he was throwing against J.C. Horn and Seth Williams. Now, I will say the tantrum, that I don't want to call it a tantrum, that Robbie Ashford had against Ole Miss, the team played like noticeably better after what you saw between Robbie Ashford and Tank Bigsby. Yeah, so was it more of him getting in Tank's face, or was it him trying to fire everybody up on getting on his level? Because Robbie Ashford is a high motor player like that. Bo Nix didn't have that kind of high motor about him. It was, I'm upset because I'm playing bad, because I can't read a defense correctly right now. But Robbie Ashford got the team because I think the Ole Miss game was probably the best game Tank Bigsby had last season statistically.
Yeah,
I think almost like 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Robbie Ashford threw up 2 touchdowns running the ball as well, and that game encompassed the leadership ability that Robbie Ashford can have. Because there's a difference between leaderships. There's your vocal leader and your silent leader. That game kind of showed that Robbie Ashford could be a vocal leader, because you're not going at like one of the wide receivers you're getting in their face about the play style. You're getting in the premier offensive player for that team last year in Tank Bigsby, and you're getting in his face telling him, hey, you need to get your head back in the game. Don't give up on the play. Don't give up on me. We are still in this game. That's not something Bo Nix ever did. Bo Nix was a tantrum. Robbie was trying to get Tank Bigsby back in this game, back believing that Auburn can win this game. And really, in other fashion, it's a good thing Auburn did lose this game, because it kind of ended the whole Harsin thing. This is the game where I think he was just a real dead man walking.
Arkansas.
I think.
Yeah,
Arkansas,
he fired him against after Arkansas, but this game alone, because Auburn doesn't lose to Ole Miss, but the players kept Auburn in that game, and that's behind Robbie Ashford getting in Tank Bigsby's face.
And I think too, Tank was like, if you just give me the ball, I'll get back in the game too. But whatever. We're not going to go into the specifics of what that argument was about. But yeah, I agree. I think Robbie, you saw Robbie's passion a lot. And I think what Hugh Freeze is trying to do is get him to channel that in different ways to be a player that your teammates can actually get behind. And I think that's also something that, has to be developed too. And I just don't think Robbie has had a chance, given where he was at Oregon, coming down to Auburn, learning that. So I think he's learning that now. And again, I'm excited for Robbie. I'm excited to see how he continues to compete. And one of the things we talked about with Finley, TJ Finley, is he admitted on an interview with us is that when it was his time to actually get on the field and show what he can do, he wasn't ready. What I'm hoping for Robbie is that he gets an opportunity, he's ready. And it takes being a leader and preparing like a leader to be ready. And so that time will tell about Robbie's development there. I'm going to grab this. Thanks to Sig for Life, becoming a member. Appreciate you, man. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before we close out. I mean, Media Days is almost coming to a close. Of course, Auburn on Tuesdays in the books. Any closing thoughts as we head into Big Cat and into the upcoming fall camp?
I hope we clean up, man. Let's get a couple 5 stars on board. There are a lot of people who care a lot more about the star rating than the quality of player. But I think the 5-star thing will kind of quiet some of the clamoring about not getting some offensive linemen, not getting some big name defensive linemen, and also losing out on Cam Coleman. I think they need to secure one for the fan base's peace of mind. I don't think they necessarily need to do that, especially not in July. Signing day is still 5 months away at this point. That's when I'm worried about those guys being on board. But I do think it would be some great preseason motivation for the fan base if we were to get at least one of those 5s and a couple 4s over the next couple weeks.
Dustin, Dylan, y'all feeling good about us flipping a guy and getting a 5-star here and there?
I don't know, man. Like, I want to. Everything you hear about Perry is positive, and that almost puts me more on the other side of it. The more people say, I think we're going to flip Perry, the more I'm like, I just don't know. But I do trust the staff. I do think that if the last staff we had was able to pull recruits out of Big Cat Weekend, I'm pretty sure these guys are going to nail it. They're going to have a good plan. The list is freaking awesome, right? Like, the list is incredible. So we'll definitely get guys out, and just appreciate you guys for having us on tonight, man. Go over there, subscribe to the Uptempo podcast. If you haven't, check out our interview with the play-by-play announcer from UMass. Obviously there's an Auburn spin on it, but like, one of the cool things about the conversation was just kind of finding out how that program ran. Like, he talked about how important this game is. Like, yeah, UMass is going to come get spanked, right? But that $2 million, now their baseball team can travel. Their volleyball team can travel. So for all those guys that talk that trash out there, like, for one, they're not looking at our schedule. It's like, we still play LSU, Bama. Like, yeah, we slid in UMass, get off our back. But just a very interesting conversation to kind of look at it from that spectrum of a small school that's just trying to get their footing in D1, man. So, but appreciate you guys having us on tonight and all the hard work y'all do for us.
No problem. Dylan, go ahead and plug, man. What y'all got going on to the College Loop, sir?
Well, if you want to check out the College Loop, I left it right there for everyone who wants to go look at that. Tomorrow, we're actually going to have an episode go up where we're going to do our Theoretical Thursday series. We're going to talk about what if Hugh Freeze was actually hired in 2021 rather this offseason.
Okay.
Go check that out.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, gentlemen. Listen, thank y'all for hanging out with us. Do us a favor, guys. Become a member. Become a member of the Green Name Gang, guys. $5.99 to get you there. You get access to all of our exclusive content, our dope content, all of previous film reviews that we're doing. And again, we're gearing up for an amazing fall season. So you definitely want to get on board for that. And also, give someone the gift of War Rapport membership, guys. So we appreciate you guys for participating in this, and it has helped us to grow, help our community to grow even more. Gifting a membership, gifting someone with a membership will give them 1 free month of access to our behind the paywall content. You can do that by clicking that button there. And thanks again for those of you who are participated in that. We had a giveaway. If you didn't win anything, you can always go to our merch store at thewarreport.com. Also, as we're gearing up for the upcoming season, you want to see us getting back into our journalism bag. I do power rankings. B. Will does some articles throughout the week. Definitely be on the lookout for that. In addition to getting merch, you can also check out a few articles from us as well. So thank you guys for definitely going to check that out. We want to show some love to some of our sponsors. Rogue Shop, appreciate them for being a long-term sponsor of the War Rapport. Go get your gummies. Hopefully, there'll be less gummies consumed this year as opposed to the previous years. So shout out to Rogue Shop. Definitely don't mean we won't stop getting gummies and having gummies on the show. Shouts out to them. Use code Rapport so they'll know that we sent you there. Also, shouts out to Harmon Mechanical. As we, again, if you're in the Auburn area, please hit them up. They are there when you need air. And we want to point people to the War Rapport Podcast Network, where yours truly, the Auburn Express, along with the College Loop and Uptempo podcast, have great content throughout the week. Definitely go and check us out there, and we will greatly appreciate it. Share this video, guys, before you get out of here. Smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at The War Rapport, and we're TW Rapport on TikTok. Zipper now, guys, but definitely we'll keep you posted throughout the week. Mike and Ike will be posting up stuff. They're probably loading stuff as I speak right now. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.